There is nothing worse than an overhyped book on social media, especially one that I fall for, and it is just not good. So, hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be covering every book that I read in June of 2026. I read 16 books, so I'm going to try to make this quick, but I do feel like it's important to share a lot of the letdowns that I did come across. Oh my God. Now these are the physical books that I have, and the rest were either checked out from my public library or listened to via my public library on Hoopla or Libby. So here we go. My top reads of June 2026. Johnny Got His Gun by Dalton Trumbo. Fabulous, emotional, horrific. It is a true anti-war book that I recommend everyone read. There's a reason that the government tried to pull this book long ago, and I'm so happy that my local library had it. And I think it's only a 6 or 7 audio book, like 6 or 7 hours on audio. And it's really, really deep. You get the perspective of a disabled war vet. And he's not just disabled. I mean, he's lost his limbs, he's lost his sight, he can't speak, he can barely figure out who he is, what he is now, where he is. He has to learn to come to terms with his new life of how he's going to be perceived, how he looks, who can he share this message with, and how he kind of turns his life around despite having lost everything. And I really, really enjoyed that read. That is a 5-star read in my opinion. Yeah, you just need to go read that book. Next, we have a 4.5-star read as far as cozy goes, because again, my summer has been themed around summerween. So cozy fantasy, cozy horror, regular horror, weird girl fiction, classic horror, like just all of it. So The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sengu Mandano was a 4.5-star read. It's a very diverse representation of different characters. It talks about prosecution and prejudice of these witches, and there are themes of isolation and acceptance and found family, and it was just so fabulous. And I did end up getting the Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping because this was just so good. Perfect recommendation I could give to anyone. The writing is beautiful. There are not any type of themes that are shoved down my throat. Everything just fits and meshes so well, and it's fabulous. Now, next I had read Molka. I don't have a physical copy yet, but Molka was a powerful story surrounding the very real realities for certain women in Asian countries right now, with hidden illegal filming of women in private places like public bathroom stalls or hotel rooms. And it really shows perspectives of everyone involved, whether it be the victims or the criminals involved in this underground dark web text chain male elite society of just sharing these videos without women's consent, and how it affects women. But it also shared, the perspective of the community of these enforcers who don't do anything about it. And it also ties in very lovely with this darkness that I am just rooting for in every book that I read in weird girl fiction at this point. Because that's what happens when women are forced into worlds where they're not protected and they're not safe. What else do you expect them to become? So I thought that was a really fabulous book. I loved the symbolism. I loved how it connected with the culture, with these old kind of folklore tales coming to real life and taking out revenge when nobody else would. So that is a must read as well. Next, I have Mad Mabel, which was a book club pick. And this is a fabulous book just because everyone in book club ate this book up. And I feel like we're also seeing a surge in elderly women, cranky women, struggling, what they have to deal with. And so Mad Mabel follows an elderly woman who was put in prison. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but you follow her story essentially, and one that she has not really shared, but she eventually ends up sharing on her own terms. And it is such a story. I really appreciated this book as far as supporting victims of abuse, and also again women that kind of are forced to find a solution to these horrific circumstances and having to pay a price that I'm not sure they should have had to, in my opinion. But if you love strong, cranky female characters, if you love found family, if you love, you know, a woman that comes out on top and is still going to be there for you and will do whatever to protect other women and children, heck yeah, you need to read this book. Thank you, Sally Hepworth. Next, we have Final Girls by Riley Sager, which I'm going to talk about the 2 books that I did read in the month of June by Riley Sager because I'm going to see him next week at a book event. So I've been working through all of his books. Final Girls is a 4-star read about a woman who escapes this horrific incident that happens when she takes a vacation with her like college friends. And she's been trying to be this perfect recovered victim in the real world now that this incident has passed, but she just can't quite address the trauma, and things start to happen where she's kind of forced to revisit this event that she can't fully remember. And I love anything like that, repressed trauma, how it affects your memory. And this was done well, very well paced as well. And then Survive the Night is kind of, it is an older work of Riley Sager, so you do have to consider that because his writing for some of his best-selling books are newer books like The Only One Left and The House Across the Lake. So Survive the Night takes place, most of it is in the car, and I thought that it takes a lot of talent for anyone to write a book where, you know, 60 to 70% of what's happening is in this car. So I enjoyed the story, but it is a little messy and it does kind of just take off and implode on itself at the end, which is okay. It is very Riley Sager-esque, but this one felt a little bit more like Frida McFadden-y vibes instead of like actually cohesively coming together and kind of tying it up. It can still explode in some great finale, but this one just really kind of I was just like, okay, like it just seemed a little bit cuckoo, but I still enjoyed it. It was just a 2.75 when I compared it to his other works. So I'm not hating. I like Riley Sager a lot. That one is just probably like one of the lower ones for me. Moving on, Salem's Lot. Speaking on slower, lower ranked books, I have been working through Stephen King's novels. I love his work. He's probably one of my favorite authors, but Salem's Lot, while it is famously known for being a pioneering vampire book of more modern times, I could not get on board with this one. It's just too slow in my opinion, and a lot of people think this as well. This is not a book I would recommend to start with. If you're going to start with Stephen King, start with The Mist or Cujo, Carrie, Misery. Any of the other more shorter condensed reads will be a better place for you to start if you're new, just so you don't get confused and bored, because the first 50% is slow. And I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy it. It was okay. It's just not as good as his other books in my opinion, especially for someone who's new to his work. Don't start off with one of his slower books. Just don't. Okay, next we have Ray Bradbury, Something Wicked This Way Comes. I love this cover. And I will say this was a letdown, but not because it's not good. This is poetic. This is rich. This is engrossing. This is atmospheric, autumnal, Halloween, folk-ish horror vibes, like mazes and carnival mirrors and creepy people and, these 2 young boys just trying to have fun and having, some difficulty in the home with their parental figures. I just couldn't relate as a woman to a lot of the young boy struggles, and I really hated the parents, especially the father in this. It wasn't bad. I gave it 3 stars. I might revisit it later, maybe more in the fall again, maybe try to do an audio and just see if that helps. But it's hard for me to relate to young boy struggles in that sense. And I still liked it, but it just didn't connect with me the way that other books like Mocha or Earthlings or Tradwife by Saratoga Schaefer did, which Tradwife is another read that I haven't stopped thinking of. It is so cuckoo bananas, but delicious as well. It's a very highly received Tradwife horror weird girl book. It follows this woman who basically will do anything to get pregnant. She really just wants something to care for, and she makes a deal with a demon out in the wooded area on the far end of her property, and you just see it unravel from there. Her marriage is not what she thinks it is. She isn't even who she thinks herself to be. She's really struggling with her own self and who she is or isn't and what she wants or doesn't want. And I really appreciated the depths of that Saratoga was able to write about, but also really just loved the craziness of it. And it does work. It is a little bit on the nose, but it's fabulous. And there's a reason why it's so popular. That one is accurately marketed. If you see someone raving about it, it's because it is good. It's not because they're getting paid to or because they see someone else buying it up at the store, so they just have to too. It's actually really good. Next, I read Margot's Got Money Troubles. This is very much a millennial kind of haha, poor me, I got pregnant and, I have struggles with my mom and dad and I'm working on it kind of read. Margot basically is a struggling young girl. She ends up getting pregnant and even her relationship is just kind of tumultuous and unhealthy, but she also doesn't have the great relationships. She doesn't have great relationships with her parents, so I'm not surprised that she ends up in the circumstance of getting pregnant by this pompous dude who has his nose up in the air 24/7 and is married. Like it's crazy. There's a reason why Apple TV picked this up and adapted it for a TV series. It is well received. She ends up having this baby. I'm not going to spoil anything, but she does have to kind of figure out a way to support herself, which is via OnlyFans. So there are some touches here that I thought were well done as far as addressing new kind of cultural taboos of the modern day, especially in our country. So Margot's Got Money Troubles, I did rate this a 3.75 stars. It was enjoyable enough. Now I myself, as a person who grew up in a strict household, and I couldn't relate exactly to Margot, but I could relate to her as a woman and as someone who's been through some of the situations that she has. But there were other parts that I felt like she is still a privileged individual and you could kind of get the vibe from that. So I think that's probably why I didn't rate it as high, just because I myself couldn't feel as sorry for her, if that makes sense. And you'll just have to read it to kind of get what I'm saying, because Margot, it ends up okay. Like it works out for her. You know what I mean? So she's fine. It's fine. Margot's just got money troubles. She doesn't have life troubles. She doesn't have suffering troubles, like it's okay. Next, we have My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otesha Moshfegh. This was a great read. I will say the ending is what lost me, and I knocked it down because of that. So this was only like a 3-star, right? Let me see. Yeah, 3-star recommendation. Not bad. Not the best either, but decent enough. And I really liked the way that it touched on young women's mental health challenges, the community of friendship, and how women typically will ignore blatant red flags of undereating and substance abuse and trauma that's not being addressed in the circle, just so long that they can uphold some fake image. Like they're not touching on these true realities that I see happen a lot in real world. So I thought that was really well done. This book is about this woman who decides to kind of just check out of her life for the year by trying to scheme her therapist, but her therapist also just doesn't care about her anyways and is just tossing her medication left and right. So everyone in the book is kind of dirty, but it's a good, wild read and it's entertaining, and it does touch on a lot of societal issues, especially in the mental health world and as a young woman in social groups. So it's good. Now, I did read When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. I don't have that copy, but I do have a copy of Mary. And I loved When the Wolf Comes Home. It was like a 4.5 stars, I think. Let me see. Yeah, 4 stars. So When the Wolf Comes Home is very cinematic. It kind of has all of the things: paranormal vibes, werewolf vibes, mental health craziness, like all of these little subgenres of horror mixed in so well. And Mary is another elderly woman's horror novel that kind of blends elements of like American Psycho, but also this like elderly woman trope that elderly woman theme or topic that we're seeing pushed right now, because Mary is kind of like this invisible middle-aged woman whose life is slowly unraveling because nobody really cares about her. She's very forgetful, but she does have mental health challenges. She comes from a very creepy, weird background, and also a background of abuse as well. So you're not really surprised when Mary starts to lose it and go off. And at first you're like, yeah, girl, lose your shit. Go ahead, do it. It's about time. You know, you're getting to be an old woman now, like pop off. But then you start to realize, oh my God, not only is she popping off, but there's more to this. And then it also ties into like cults as well, which is such a fascinating topic of horror that I wish we had more of because it's so scary and real. And so yeah, definitely recommend Mary. You might get lost in the sauce for a bit, but that's okay. Just go with it. And also, this was a huge letdown. I'm sorry. The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I feel like this was marketed inappropriately, or not inappropriately, but inaccurately. And the cover just, you know, I should have known because of the pink bleeding here, that it's not, you know, blood red, that nothing crazy is actually going on here. No supernatural craziness, you know, no folk horror monster in the woods is coming to gobble up these kids. And it's also no protective greater thing out there to fight off all these human evils. It's not that deep actually. So yeah, it is very summer campy, horror vibes, thrillery, which is why I picked it for summerween, and I've had it on my bookshelf. Thank God I only paid $5 for it from a Goodwill when I thrifted this book. But I had saw like Netflix was working on an adaptation out in New York, and I thought I have to read this now, it's time. And I will say that it is atmospheric, and you know, the storytelling is fanciful, but it's almost too fluffed up and a little bit choppy with like how the author chose to introduce certain people, and all of the connections just don't seem really connected enough. I couldn't get with it, and the ending just kind of flopped for me. I was like, really, that's all it is? Like, obviously there's serious things going on here with the community, with the rich and the not rich, and the setting of summer camp, but I don't know. It just didn't hit me as hard as some of these other books. And maybe I'm just becoming more of a horror and classic gothic lit girl overall, because some of this fluffy stuff just isn't hard enough for me. It's not hitting hard the way I need it to, if that makes sense. So let me see if I missed anything else that I don't have a physical copy of. I don't think I did. The only other thing that I have is a arc that I read, which is Little Red Death. And it's kind of like supposedly this like Little Red Riding Hood fairy tale hopping horror book, but it was really just kind of trippy and messy, and there was a lot of weird stuff going on that I feel like kind of lends to the author's personal choices or preferences and lifestyle, and I gave it 2.75 stars. I'm not a NetGalley reviewer that is going to just give any book a minimum of a 3 just because I was lucky enough to read it. I don't do that. I will say that there are certain concepts that I enjoyed, and I thought that it could have been interesting, but it was just messy. And I felt like the idea to retell some of the fairy tales was clever, but I just got lost by the end of it. And honestly, I feel like I'm not the person to properly judge these trippy books. And I don't want to knock it to a 1 star just because I'm not that person, but I definitely don't think that the writing was profound. I don't feel like some of the connections were made. And then the end just kind of felt like, oh, well, we'll just tie this up and it can be tied up however the reader kind of wants it to be tied up. I don't know. If you're curious to see what I did write in a more detailed way, you can go to my Goodreads or Fable at Sophia Reads Everything. But those are the 16 books that I read for June 2026 wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've already read more books for July, and I will share a wrap up as well. They're bigger, heavier hitting books that I'm really excited to share, also in the horror genre. So yeah, maybe I'm just becoming a horror gothic girly, because it seems to be the only genre right now that could really captivate me and pull me in. And there's a difference in the writing style, and there's so much symbolism in horror. There's so much that can be picked apart, and it also lends itself to real world traumas that people maybe won't speak on because they have a way to address it in a more scary environment or a symbolic way. But these stories still need told. So that's all I have for right now. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, and check back in a few days for more content. I don't know how people talk on here forever. I'd be thirsty.